so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life? Well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to tell you about a few sponsors that not only help to make it possible to produce this show 5 days a week, but that I'm also genuinely passionate about promoting, especially since they're helping to fund all the cool projects we have in the works, such as the Positive Head app, the docuseries that I'm intending to begin shooting within the next year, and whatever else we dream up over here at Positive Headquarters to help spread consciousness across the planet. Now, if you're short on time or just super excited for today's topic and want to dive right in and skip these ads, feel free to fast forward about
4 minutes
to get right into today's show. That being said, I strongly encourage you to listen because the reason I'm passionate about my sponsors is because they've made a huge impact in my own life, which is why I've aligned with these organizations. And I firmly believe they can do the same for you too. The first longtime stellar supporter of the show that I want to mention is Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online with over 8,000 video titles. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. The second sponsor I'm extremely passionate about promoting is Purium. It's no mystery that bringing your mind, body, and spirit into balance is necessary if a person truly intends to manifest the greatest and greatest version of themselves. And as of recording this, it's been about 4 months since I started taking the Purium Core 4 superfood products every day. And I can honestly and sincerely say my mind, body, and spirit have never felt more in alignment. If you've been looking for a way to easily get superfoods into your system every day with a simple plan that can help you reestablish a healthier foundation and relationship with food, I cannot recommend for you to start with the Purium 40-Day Ultimate Nutrition Plan, which includes a 10-day metabolic reset and cleanse enough. I spent personally months researching Purium before I jumped in, and now myself and over 150 other positive heads have started with the 40-Day Ultimate Nutrition Plan, and many of us have continued taking the Core 4 products on an ongoing basis daily ever since. I personally intend to take them for the rest of my life because they played a huge role transforming my vibrational state. If you decide to do it, it'll cost you just over $7 a day for the first 40 days and only about $5 a day after. But if you do it the way that I recommend you to do it, the smartest and most beneficial way, it won't cost you anything. I recommend you to just look at where you can reallocate money you are already spending on food each day. Essentially, you're just going to swap out the unhealthiest stuff you're in the habit of purchasing in exchange for Purium superfoods. And this way, it costs you nothing to participate in the transformation and cleanse. And it creates exponential benefit because now you've replaced something that lowers your vibration with something that is going to make you feel super high in the healthiest kind of way. Just take a few minutes, see where you can cut out $5 to $7 a day and commit to doing it. It's that simple. Also, for support, we'll be doing a big group transformation with other positive heads and soul family once each month for support. So I recommend, going right now, ordering your 40-day Ultimate Nutrition Plan bundle so that you have it when the next group transformation starts. Procrastination is not your friend. Order it now. You can thank me later, because I can assure you, you will not be sorry you've decided to send a message to the universe that you're ready to step up your vibrational game and reclaim your health sovereignty. Just head over to ishoppurium.com. That's spelled ISHOPPURIUM.com. Be sure to use the code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, for either $50 off or a 25% discount, whichever is greater. And also, if you want to learn more details about the Purium products, why I'm so passionate about promoting them beforehand, you can go check out several videos I shot discussing these things in greater detail. You can also hear my interview with the very inspiring founder, David Sandoval. Much, much more over at positivehead.com/transformation. All right, all you positive heads, welcome back to me. Welcome back to you. Missed you, guys, gals, extraterrestrials, anyone who's listening, tuning in, anyone who's maybe tuning in on another dimension. Missed you too. It's been a few days. I've been away in northern Nevada. I was digging for opals, actually, at the Peacock Opal Mine, and took my nephew. It was for his high school graduation. My brother and myself gifted him a trip, and so we made it a little family trip with my son and dad and brother-in-law, etc. And it was a really, really good time. Found some opals, not huge opals, but some little opals. And it was, it was cool. First time I ever done anything like that. I think I would do it again, and maybe even dig for some different types of rocks, gems, etc. So yeah, I understand that Erica, Miss did an amazing job while I was gone. Let me put on my surprise face. I knew she would. So appreciate you, Erica, for holding down the fort and steering the ship while I was away. And I'm just really, really happy to be back. It's great to get a break like that, not recording for like a week. And it gives me the perspective, on how wonderful it is to have this opportunity to connect and share with you all in this way. And of course, you get a little mix up as well. It's always good to have some fresh insight and voices and perspective, and a lot of divine feminine running the show with Alexa as well on Fridays for the last week. And so, yeah, super cool. All right. So, what did I learn? What did I take away? What, as I typically do, what's bubbling up for me? And, what was something that really had a big impact on me since we've connected last was listening on the trip, and I'm almost done with it. I'm probably 2/3 done with the book by Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment. And you guys have heard me talking about The Untethered Soul for a while, his other book. I think he's got a few, actually, but those are the two biggest ones. And that one, I listened to most of it in the past and haven't finished it. This one is more like his life story, and it's such a powerful story and lesson that is shared throughout. And I want to give a sort of a rundown of what it's about. And of course, some of you may want to go out and actually read or listen to the book in full. But before I do that, I would like to take a moment to read a review on iTunes. You guys know I love my iTunes reviews. Not only do they help us to reach new people, but certainly help to fuel my fire to continue this labor of love. So this one came in by Shelly and MS. Oh, wow. It looks like normally I have them pretty queued up, where people leave reviews. And for the last few weeks, people haven't been leaving too many reviews. And the next one queued up, there's only one left. And it's like a 1-star bad review. And I've had a few, it's almost what looks like 907 total reviews. And most all of them are 5-star, some others sprinkled in there, and a few 1-stars. But normally they don't actually leave what their thoughts are. They just star it without writing anything. And so after this one today, the only thing left is just this sad, 1-star with someone just like grilling me on why they think, my show sucks. But so now would be the time, if you've been thinking about reviewing, to go and help to save me from the bottom of the barrel here, this grim looking future on the review timeline. But for today, in the now, I've got one good one left. Shelley in MS. Shelley wrote, a must listen. I have been listening to the Positive Head podcast for over a year and am immensely grateful for the expansive content and the passion Brandon brings to each episode. He has amazing guests, topics that challenge one to reconsider preconceived ideas, and as one might guess, positivity, which is much needed at this time. I highly recommend this podcast and have enjoyed tapping into the knowledge of the community on the podcast Facebook page. Thank you, Brandon. I love you so, 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 so much. Aw, thank you, Shelley. Love you too. Thank you for taking the time to send some love my way. Definitely appreciate it. All right, so let's jump in to the topic. Let's talk a little bit about surrendering, this idea of, and we've talked about this a lot on the show, but what I love about Michael Singer, when I first was being turned on to his work, actually, I think it was a while back, my friend Michael Rostosky, who's been a co-host multiple times, and he was telling me, he's like, oh, Brandon, you got to check out the Surrender Experiment. I feel like you and Michael Singer have sort of similar paths in your life. And, and he told me a little bit about it at the time, and it definitely resonated. Then I checked out the Untethered Soul. You guys have heard me talking about that. I loved it. And now listening to the Surrender Experiment, his life story, I definitely feel like we have similar paths. I also feel like maybe in a unique way, kind of like yin and yang, like he is. Okay, so I'll start a little bit, and I'm going to give you the overview of the book and his story and the lessons that have really stuck with me so far. And I'm not quite done with it yet, but I'll probably finish it within the next few days because it's story form, and I love stories, as you guys know, but especially good ones. And this is his life story is a good one. And it starts, in the 70s with him noticing this incessant voice in his head that's always talking, always chattering, always having an opinion, always, just sort of, he became hyper aware of it, and it was driving him crazy. And he's like, how do I shut off this voice in my head? And he starts, really it becomes like his obsession to figure out how he can shut off this voice in his head. And ultimately, he ends up finding a book, The 3 Pillars of Zen, and he starts meditating, and he ends up having like a sort of a breakthrough experience where he, goes into this place of, divine silence and peace and ecstasy and bliss. And he just, one day he decides he's going to sit down under a tree, and he's not leaving until he becomes enlightened, he says. And he has this powerful experience, and it's like a huge breakthrough for him. And so then now he's, the book starts off him, realizing this voice. He wants to get away from this incessant voice in his head. He finds a way to do that. Then he becomes sort of obsessed with the idea of staying in that state. He basically, this guy's fascinating. I mean, in some ways our paths seem very aligned with business stuff and everything else I'll touch on in a minute, but in other ways we're quite different. I mean, this guy really wanted to throw off. I'm someone who's wanted to like do all the things and sort of have so much life experience. He, on the other end, is like, I don't want anything to do with anything other than being in this meditative, blissful state I found. Right. And he was very young, in his early 20s. This is going back into like around 1970 ish, when all this was beginning for him. And so he ended up getting a house and buying some property with a little bit of money he had, and just his aim is to just do nothing but meditate there all day, every day, and do as little as possible. And he kind of like he's getting his I want to say he's getting his master's at the time, and he kind of starts waning from that. Like, screw this. I'm not going down this path. I'm just going to sit in the woods and meditate. And so he does a lot of that. And what ends up happening ultimately is he realizes at some point that things are starting to bubble up for him, like things that want to come into and disrupt his meditation time, like them wanting him to teach at the local community college, and people and just keep coming into his field that are sort of trying to pull him away from that. And he has a realization that, if he just is resisting whatever it is that they're talking about, like, no, I'm going to meditate, in at my house. I don't care about this. I don't care about money. The guy didn't care about any material, anything. And then he realized, hold on, I'm listening to this voice in my head again. It's like it's steering the ship. It's telling me that I just want to meditate. And, and he comes to this point where he realizes, well, what if the path is really to just surrender to, to everything? And I can't remember, once again, this is just sort of like a high level recounting of what the book is about. Definitely recommend going to read it or listen to it for the full, download. But, I think it was maybe the autobiography of a yogi, which helped him with this piece of his realization. Me wanting to just go meditate is listening to that voice. The voice is telling me, no, don't do this thing that this person is trying to pull on me to do. And I'm actually trying to get away from that voice, and I want to move into just completely flowing with life and what it brings for me. So instead of me always sort of deciding, having preferences, he decided he was going to ignore his preferences and his judgments and just flow with what the universe wanted to bring his way. What it wanted to put in front of him. And this really, this one really stuck with me and jumped out at me because as someone who's sort of been the opposite, a lot of preferences, a lot of desires to do a lot of things. He only had one desire, and that was to meditate. I've had a lot of preferences and judgments and, ideas throughout my life. And so this idea of truly surrendering to the flow of what is really, it's like he did it at a whole nother level of anything. I've never heard a story of someone's life this much surrender. And that's of course why he called it, and he named it to himself at the time, the surrender experiment. I'm just going to surrender to whatever it is. I'm not listening to the voices, preferences in my head anymore, any of the judgments about it. I'm just going to sort of go with what is obviously the direction the universe is prompting me. And then the book is, sort of what unfolded from this experiment. Now it started in the early 70s, and what the guy ended up doing, the things he ended up doing for a guy who only wanted to sit in the woods and meditate. What he's done is incredible. I mean, literally, he wouldn't want to take payment for things. He was just not attached to anything. It really, really fascinating. And he ultimately, though, ended up, being led to teach at the local community college. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. I'm going to go with the flow of what's I'm being pulled to do, but I'm not going to, spend a bunch of time planning. I'm not going to disrupt my morning and evening meditations. I'm just going to what comes through, come through. So he becomes like this channel in ascension, in essence. And so people start, at college, it becomes like his class becomes like the thing. Everyone wants to come hear it. He's teaching all about, spirituality essentially, and quieting the voice in the head. And, people are overflowing coming to his class. And it just turns into this incredible synchronistic journey where he goes from teaching to, then he built a property, house on his property. He just wanted a humble little shack to meditate in. Someone else came along and wanted to build something more grandiose. His friend who just got out of architecture school. And then, so then that happened. And then from there, someone loved his work and came and said, hey, I want you to build me a house. And not knowing anything, no planning, he just goes with the flow of this and ends up, building this big company. And one of the cool synchronistic stories I'll share in there is, he by the time he starts building small things at first, people are coming to him, to do this. Then it turns into someone wants him to build him a house. he doesn't have the resources to build a house. He needs a loan, so he decides to get a loan. No banks will accept him. Then this one banker took a real interest in his loan request. Like kind of came to his property and checked it out and ended up giving him this loan when really he wasn't qualified for it, for $20,000. This ends up leading to, because this banker gave him this loan, it ends up being a big company. That was like the seed capital to build the first house, and then on it went. Well, like 10 years later, Michael is in a video store. Back in the day when you went and actually got videos for rent. I remember that. And he's browsing and, he's got this successful construction company now and everything. And he hears the person behind the desk talking about how he can't get a loan to expand his video store or, whatever he needed. And Michael thought that he looked really familiar. He's like, that guy looks familiar. So he gets talking to him. Turns out it's the same banker from 10 years earlier who out of nowhere just gave him this $20,000 loan he was not qualified for. And as Michael would put it, hey, I'm just going with the flow and the universe is providing what I needed. Well, here is that same banker who decided his hand at entrepreneurial venture. He left banking to start this video store. And he needed a loan, and he happened to be talking on the phone at that moment when Michael is shopping about how no one will give him a loan to do what he needs to do. Michael then ends up, of course, he's pretty wealthy by this point. He ends up giving the guy needed $20,000, the same amount, ends up giving him a personal loan that he needed. I mean, what are the chances? He's in the store, it's the same guy, and the guy's on the phone talking about how he needs a loan. It just like crazy synchronicity after synchronicity as he just makes this lifelong commitment to ignoring his own preferences and judgments and just flowing with what is obviously the direction he's meant to go. From there, it went to a software company. Software company felt so drawn to computers when they first came out. This is like 1979. He sees this first computer and he, ends up learning how to program, and then people start coming to him. Hey, he bought the computer from Radio Shack. Hey, some people would like help programming something. I know you've been really diving into that. He ends up writing bigger and bigger and bigger programs. One of the biggest, the program for medical and insurance billing ended up being written by him in the middle of the woods with people in this totally unconventional way, and becomes this huge, company worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and everything from him just doing flowing and putting his whole heart into everything that he did. And what he said he finally realized early on, there was all this inner turmoil. I just want to cut off the outside world and meditate. And he realized everything becomes a meditation. When you put your whole heart and soul and you just follow where life is taking you, and you do it with your whole heart. And you guys have heard me talk about it before, where I've had, sort of mixed feelings about some of my travel company, the entrepreneurial venture that is this incredible opportunity, growing a lot and all these things, but yet it pulls me away from doing more work in this realm, right? I spend 7 hours a week on the podcast, and, I'm so blessed. It's been consistently in the top 10 in spirituality on iTunes with me not even putting in that much effort. What if I could put in all of my heart and soul, and so that's been hard for me. And I've, really had to come to terms with these two different parts of myself. And so this book has really helped me to realize, no, the universe has made it very apparent it wants me to do this other project. And yes, there will be a time for me to exit. But until then, putting 100% of my heart and soul into it, having mixed vibration is never the answer, right? And so this is a guy who's juggling lots of things, because very similar to me, because the universe is bringing lots of things to him. And so I just loved hearing this story, because it did really resonate with me in that way. And what the biggest takeaway is how peaceful is it to approach your life in a way where you're no longer so concerned with your own preferences and judgments, and more of what is the universe making it obvious that is a direction for me to go, right? And I think and then you think about this idea of, well, having desires and with loose expectation. We talk about that a lot on the show. So really the dance becomes between preferences are going to rise at times, right? I think the real dance becomes between your preferences and finding the flow both, because you have some things where there's a preference that arises. But if you have a preference, in his case, it was always if he was having a preference against something that wanted to happen, like someone insisting that he teach at the school, which then, by the way, led to all these other great things. Someone insisting that he build a house when he was resistant to it. No, I just want to go meditate. But he had learned to stop listening to that voice of why not, and just saying, okay, this is obviously a direction that it's under conditions that are like sort of uncanny that this is coming up. And that's the times when he would ignore his own preferences and just go with what was being presented to him. And, it moves from, instead of creating your life so much, just allowing it to be done for you. And I think that's a powerful place for us all to move into. If I can stop all the inner turmoil in regards to, should I do this? Should I do that? What is the universe showing me that I should be doing? What is naturally being brought to me? That just, it's obvious, even if maybe I have some ego level preference against it, but it's obvious that it's being brought to me. I think there's a certain chord in his story. There's a certain chord, where he's like, okay, I can see that this is like, this is wanting to happen through me. And I don't really know why. And really, it's not even my preference to do it, but I'm now going to do it with my whole heart, mind, body, spirit. And then all these great gifts come up. So, it doesn't mean if something comes to you that feels way out of alignment and seems like that you should then say, oh, well, this guy told me I should go jump off a cliff right now, so I'm going to do it. And, so I think that the dance comes between, really feeling into what is being brought up in front of me and how much does it feel like, this seems, there's almost like when something's meant to happen, it's almost like a natural, unnatural flow to it. Like, hold on, this seems out of left field that this person all of a sudden called me and wants me to go to Tahiti. And all of a sudden, I got an email that same day or the day before showing I can get tickets for $99 to Tahiti, or whatever. It's like, it becomes like this obvious kind of thing, right? And so instead of you, in those moments, instead of you listening to your internal preference, the ego mind, surrendering to the flow. I mean, the guy's life has been a breeze. All he's done, I'm not going to say he hasn't had challenges, but all he's done is just follow the flow and do everything with his full heart, soul, mind, without all sort of preconceived ideas of, I want to get rich from it, or the guy's very wealthy from all his success, I'd imagine. But it's never was even a concern for him. He's actually took all that money and invested it back into his land, which turned into his nonprofit organization that he actually founded in 75 on his land, Temple of the Universe. And it turned into this established yoga and meditation center. And that was a part of the journey too, where all these big famous teachers would come through, and he was facilitating that. And just for a guy who didn't want to really do anything except for sit in the woods and meditate, the amount of things that were brought to him and that he made it a game to just flow with, it's an incredible way to approach life, and a magical way to approach life. And so I know there's so many of you out there, just unsure. It's something that we can all relate to, right? This idea of, I don't know which direction to go next. What is life trying to tell me? Where do I want to go? I have one foot in this and one foot in that, and working this job, but I really want to be doing this. And this is something that a lot of us have, I hear this as a recurring theme over and over and over again between friends, listeners, all kinds of people. And if you take this guy's approach and just say, hold on, I'm going to stop with all these preferences about, I have a preference to go do this, but really my life circumstances got me doing this other thing. It's that resistance that actually keeps you in that other thing, oftentimes, right? All the time. What you resist is always going to persist. So, what he was doing was just saying, hey, my preference isn't to go become a builder, but I'm going to become a builder. My preference isn't to become a software developer, but I'm going to do that. And each time they turn into these flourishing, amazing projects, right? And so if you can just say, hey, where you are now, I'm just going to completely surrender to it because you're there. Right. And it is, the stream has taken you there somehow, way, shape, or form, maybe in a different way than he ended up, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is now, right? How are you going to navigate on a go forward? Are you going to keep kicking and screaming? My preferences, or maybe you now take and do the same experiment of surrender. Maybe there is a higher self, a higher force, an expanded version of myself that is bringing things to me, and my preferences have constantly had me at turmoil with what the universe wants to do through me and what my ego level preference is based off of minimal visibility into the grander scheme, because that's what would always happen. He had no visibility into what the implications of some of these small things were and where they led was like the synchronicity that unfolded because it started ignoring his preferences and going with what obviously wanted to flow is incredible. And how simple it made his decisions. He's like, every time something would come up, I'd see my preference. No, I don't want to do that. And then he trained himself though. Okay. But it's obvious the circumstances here. This is what life wants to do through me and where it wants to take me. And then he was always very glad it did. And he didn't listen. So to that small voice in his head, rallying against the flow of the entire universe. And so that's really today. And what I want to talk about and what I want to leave with you is, for me, it brought great comfort hearing his path as someone who has had some of that inner turmoil about, hold on, I want to do more of this sort of work, but yet the universe has taken me in this direction. And I've been doing that in my own way anyway, finding the peace with it and knowing that there will come a time when I can do more of this type of work and, of the docuseries I want to do and whatever else comes up. That's related to consciousness and spreading awareness and, helping to elevate myself and others. There will be plenty of time for that. And in the meantime, other projects have so many gifts that I'm working on. And so why resist where the universe is wanting me to go? That's just a torturous way to navigate reality. And of course, by accepting things, that's how we move through them too, right? So that's what I would leave you with today. I will leave you with today is just from this moment forward, I strongly encourage you to just surrender to the flow and say to higher self, okay, I get it now. You're going to just show me whatever in what you show me is the path to go may not necessarily be my ego level decision, right? The voice in my head, the incessant preference being the incessant preference voice that won't shut the hell up is chattering about what it wants and what it thinks and all those things. But I'm going to look deeper and see and trust the flow and let it take me where it will take you to the greatest and greatest version of yourself effortlessly, so much more effortlessly than trying to force anything through your narrow perspective on how to do it. And that's really the lesson in all of this in his life and that he's sharing with all of us. And I'm so grateful for it. It really makes it easy to know that we can just float, right? You can literally learn from this moment forward to just float and trust and watch the magic unfold as things float to you that are meant for you. And your job isn't so much as to architect it as it is to experience it. Right. And I believe that is the dance with our higher self, right? That we are here to experience. It is there to help bring the right circumstances, things, people, events at the right time. And when we're in this state of receptivity and flow, it makes it way, way easier for our higher self to deal with as human. And your higher self is probably doing jumping jacks that you're listening to this episode because it's like, finally, we can get there, without this little voice that's always resisting and trying to take you a different direction. So yeah, let's do it. I'm doing it. I feel so good. Makes my day really easy. I don't really need to force anything. I'm just going to flow with where it wants to take me. And I have utter trust. And you should too, because you are infinitely loved and supported. I infinitely love and support you. Thank you for being. I do have a song to leave you with. This song is Float Up by the lovely Alyssa Rose, who actually is a friend. And we've been talking for some time of having her on to co-host. This is off her new album, Breath and Bones. And it would be lovely to have her on. We've talked about her coming on to co-host and maybe do an acoustic song at the end. So that would be cool to have something live, huh? So, Oh, you know what? One other thing before I do leave that I just remembered. For any of you guys in the Los Angeles area and are looking for something to do on Halloween, co-host Christopher Jackson, my good friend, has an event, Abundance, Neverland Halloween in Los Angeles on October 26th. So if you use promo code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, at theticketferry.com, you get a discount. So I'm going to be there. I'd love to see any of your bright, shiny, happy faces that are in the LA area. And otherwise, this is Alyssa Rose, Float Up, from her new album, Breath and Bones. Till next time, float on. Love you all so, so much. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
We flew to the river, far till the sea stood at the rocky point. Like you have me. We flew to the river, far till the sea jumped from the rocky point, and we let ourselves go with the water. In mid-moon from the rocky point, and we let ourselves go with the water in mid-motion. Time stands still.